Hello, and welcome to WKNC Sports Podcast in the Den. Today, we're going to be going over the women's soccer game from last night as of time of recording. And then we'll also be going over the ECU football game a few weeks. I know it's a little early for that, but I figured just kind of keep it on theme with the whole ECU thing. This will be kind of a quick episode because I did one a little earlier, but hope you all still enjoy. Get your headphones on. Let's get right to it. All right, we'll start off with the women's soccer game. Just a little disclaimer: no real hate towards ECU, and we do a lot of work with them with the blood donation stuff. So obviously, no hate there. It's just for the sake of sports competitiveness. We're gonna be haters today. Unfortunately, last night it was a 1-1 draw. We're hoping for a win, but that just did not happen. Both of the defenses were really showing up in this game. Olivia Pratapaz, our goalie, made up for sort of a poor performance in that first game by notching 6 saves, 3 times as much as her last game. However, early in that second half, her only goal that she gave up was a foul caused by Jade Bordelot that resulted in a goal for Isabella, Gutierrez, her second goal of the season. They would keep ECU scoreless for the rest of the half game, though, with only 5 more shots on goal out of that. No, 5 shots, period, out of that second half. Defense did its job minimizing fouls. I mean, not really. Defensively minimizing fouls and shots for this ECU team. Without that penalty, goal, they could have even gone scoreless, really. Now I guess focusing a little bit more on the offensive side. It was well dispersed and as aggressive as I wanted to see it. 9 shots in each half, which for about like a shot every 10 minutes. Maybe not crazy aggressive, but a lot more than the last game. In fact, 3 substitution players in Daisy Duda, Maddie Miller, and Mary Frances Sims were all notching 1 shot on goal each for a total of 8 shot on goals, which is 47% accuracy, versus ECU 7, which, granted, 58% accuracy. However, ECU only took 9 shots. So, while, yeah, their percentage is better, we have a bigger sample size, so therefore we win. Boom. Ford Antonella Masiato took 5 shots, 2 of them being on goal, and one of those 2 being a corner kick from Mana Nantaka to tie up the game. It was like an assist from Mana Nantaka, and Tanoa Masiato scored the goal, and that would tie up the game pretty late. I think it was about around the 70-minute mark, and that kind of closed up the game offensively and defensively for the 1-1 score. Ultimately, the game was definitely a step up from James Madison. Lots of the players carried their roles well, and we're finally starting to see some offensive production from some players, because I was hoping to see who could kind of become that number 1 person for the team, and as it turns out, Masiato is proving her case with this game. And Nataka has consistently throughout 2 games, has shown that she's also capable. I was hoping to see more from Jade Bordelot, because she didn't have any shots on goals and 3 fouls, just as much as the last game. But I think that I don't know what we're going to see out of her for some other offensive performers, because Emily Wong only has 1 shot on goal. 2 games. No, we're not even in conference play yet. I think we got a couple more, especially the one I'm about to mention that's coming up next, this Thursday night. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Defensively, I think I do need to lower my expectations a little bit. I think I mentioned I wanted to see more out of defenders. Brooklyn Holt, trying to think who else there is. Aoka, I was hoping to get a little bit more from them, but then I realized they're defenders. I mean, not a lot of defensive stats show up on the board. So I can't really judge without being there, but it's just hard. It's hard to get all the game footage that I need to figure out what's going on. But I think with this performance, it's a team-wide thing, and as the defensive captain, I kind of gotta give Holt a little bit more grace, and just a defense, in general, they all kind of need a little bit of grace to them. I think that sure, that first game was terrible defensively. The second game was a little better, averaging 2 goals a game. I just hope that they can shore up and just kind of clean up around the edges, heading into conference play. But I'm going to talk a little bit about our next opponent, all the way in Lansing, Michigan. That's right, Michigan State. Michigan State does have a winning record against NC State at 0-1. They won one game in 2023, and they haven't played before. They also have 2 ties. Michigan State has 2 ties this season of the 2 games they played. 1-1 against Colorado and 0-0 against Dayton. Michigan State seems to go on big streaks of offensive, being able to put up shots, but struggle to get those shots on goal with about 26% accuracy. But in both of those games, they outshot their opponents, even by double digits. They outdid Dayton 20-9, which I know it's like Dayton's, lower level, lower competition, but that's still all of that, and it's a 0-0 draw. What's going on? They haven't really been doing what they need to offensively. Defensively, it sounds like they're doing really good. They have been kind of flipping around with goalies. Their last one that they had was Kennedy Sorn, who kept Dayton to 0. But just the pure margin of their goals versus their opponent's goals, I think that Michigan State does show that they kind of have an advantage on stopping plays. It's just that eventually they gotta start putting them in. Only 1 goal in 2 games. NC State's done the same, but I don't think that we really. No, we also did outnumber, but it wasn't by huge margins. And they outdid us on shots on goal. ECU did. So yeah, we're a little more well-rounded than Michigan State for sure. I was close in our loss in Colorado. Yeah, it's just the whole shot differential. I kind of lost myself in my notes there. Pratipas, Holt, the entire defense, really, they have their work cut out for them. If they can force turnovers and blocks to try to stutter that Michigan State offense and keep them away from the goal, like, at all. Because, they've shown that they can't really get the shots on goal. But they have shown that they can kick the ball like nobody's business. So I think what NC State's looking to do heading into that game is just try to stop Michigan State from having opportunities to even just let the ball go. I know that kind of sounds like basic, like, soccer defense. The best way to play soccer defense is to not let them score. I know that's kind of a little obvious, but it's just like, if you can just keep them from kicking the ball, they'll eventually get it in if you just let them do it. But if you just kind of cut out all the opportunities and really put the pressure on them, yeah, I think you could get away with it. let's see. NC State doesn't really have like a ability to outshoot opponents, so they kind of have to play smart and minimize that foul trouble. They kind of. I don't think that they should go for outshooting Michigan State. I think they should go for being accurate and precise with the goals and just seizing any opportunity that defense can give them. Because, sure, I mean, this defense doesn't really show too much vulnerability, but it's still, I think, vital for NC State to just kind of keep an ear out for any opportunity to score. I think, unlike these kind of previous games, I think there will be a little bit less focus on the freshman players, like, Daisy Duda. Who else is freshman on that roster? I think Daisy is the most notable freshman. And I know she's getting playing time. I know she's getting accurate, but I don't know if you can really kind of iron things out in this game in particular, especially since, we need a win. I don't know what the ACC standards are looking like, actually, but I don't even think it matters. But you don't want to, we're already looking like we're going to lose a lot. I don't think we should start behind too late either. So what I think they should do is just beat them. Play smart. Play smart offense. A little conservative, and play real liberal on defense to just kind of suffocate them and keep those shots away. Don't outshoot them. Just don't let them shoot well. My predicted score, if you want to put some money on it, NC State will probably win with just one goal. If I'm really getting bold, I think Jade Wardlow getting her first goal. I'm putting too much pressure on her, but she ain't listening to this. Some players on Michigan State to look out for. Renee Watson has the most shots on goal for the entire team, so she's bound to get one in. And the only one who has on that team is Kennedy Bell. I think both those players are defenders too, so I think Michigan State just has strong defense and not much else. 3 late game saves by goalie Kennedy Soren, so watch out because she might be able to come in clutch in this Thursday game. And if she does, that just kind of game over for NC State. But I think I've rambled long enough about women's soccer. Let's get to the football, shall we? I know the transition is far from perfect on that, but I just have a lot to go with this ECU pregame matchup. And I know I mentioned this already, like, Logan, it's a little too early. You're jumping the gun. You're right. I am. So let's get to it. I don't think you really need too much context for that game, but I'll give a brief rehash of the Military Bowl. ECU versus NC State. NC State gave up 330 yards and 3 touchdowns in the rushing game, but they were able to hold back the passing game, giving Caden Hauser, ECU's quarterback, 3 interceptions. Let's see. NC State had Hollywood Smothers to carry the ball, and he did pretty well with notching 6 of their, 11 first downs. But the team-wide, 35 attempts for 198 yards is you don't love to see it. CJ Bailey in that game, he was able to show that he can ball out without Concepcion stripping in the ball for all the wide receivers on the roster. But the main I think what's going to be the big 3 for this team receiving wise with Jolly, Noah Rogers, and Wesley Grimes. And I'm sure NC State could have won the game if they had more third down efficiency, and if they, Rajay Davis didn't have that. I don't think Rajay Davis, had that big run to end the game. Hold on. I Rajay Harris, not Davis. I'm sorry, Rajay Harris. Um, Kind of just ran all over them in that fourth quarter, and that just kind of got rid of any possibility of NC State winning. Let's see, but ECU, they have a new head coach, Blake Harrell. He was, I think he was like a interim coach, defensive coordinator, and he took over. Bringing back John David Baker as the offensive coordinator, and bringing in Josh Aldridge as the defensive coordinator. While a fast-paced spread offense is expected to return, new defensive coordinator Josh Aldridge is going to bring that 4-2-5 defensive scheme that will surely challenge the capabilities of this wide receiver core, as well as CJ Bailey. So I think this is an appropriate game to gauge the capabilities of CJ Bailey, just because he had a pretty good performance against them. And I think it's just a way to kind of compare things. Just be like, okay, this is how he looked, entering the offseason. This is how he looks now. Maybe there might be a little growing pain since it's the first game. But I think it's just kind of more intangibles that we're looking for. Just, is he there as a quarterback and not as a star? We don't need a star just yet. We just need a good quarterback. Josh Aldridge, that's kind of my B point. He came from Auburn as a defensive coordinator and also with Liberty, and he's been with that Hugh Freeze defensive system for a while, and it may not be good enough to last in the SEC for a long time. But I think if he can handle a Josh Aldridge defense, then I think that's really good to kind of set the standard for what we could get out of him. All right, so now we'll get into kind of we're going to match things up. Just because that's kind of like to do it. It's just like, okay, this passing offense versus this passing defense, rushing offense, rushing defense, special teams, and then just kind of a little side note on how NC State could win. That's kind of how I organize these things. So we're going to start with ECU passing offense versus NC State's passing defense. ECU has Caden Hauser, who had a poor performance against NC State in the air. But how will he handle the new look defense? I mean, this is two new look defenses now that I'm realizing it. Other games, he's shown great substantial passing, but his turnover questions will be a major focus coming into that game. He had 11 on the season, and he didn't start the whole season. I think he started like 5-6 games. He was able to distribute the ball well between Anthony Smith and Yannick Smith. I don't know if they're related. Oklahoma transfer Jacquez Petaway creates great optimism in the passing game as a pure athletic route runner that defensive backs need to kind of focus on. Despite his lack of like real in-game tape, he has shown that he's just, spread offense needs those fast-paced athletes, and Jacquez Petaway has proved that he can be one of those guys. And I just think that's kind of like that's a third star that they need to worry about really for this passing offense. While they're able to kind of keep Anthony and Yannick Smiths from performing well, I just don't think that'll be the same with Petaway. I think that you definitely get a thrown touchdown in. As long as Hauser can get the ball in their hands, the offense will keep itself churning. And for NC State, I mean, they get their hands closer to chest on what will come with their defense, especially in the secondary. Some projections I saw from Punt and Rally as well as our lads saw Brian Nelson II, Jamel Johnson, Jeremiah Johnson, and Rente Hinton as, starting in that back four. Of course, I should mention Jamel Johnson. It could also be Devin Marshall. It just kind of depends on who you trust most. NC State's passing defense slowly degraded, as the rest of it throughout the season. So having a new secondary leaves lots of question marks, and this will be a great tune-up game for what's to come. But um, one thing I think the reason I give this advantage to NC State is just because we don't know where we're going to get from Caden Hauser. I mean, he's mentioned transferring out of ECU over the offseason. And there's also a lot of confidence coming inside from their backup quarterback, Raheem Jeter. And, losing two starting caliber receivers in Chase Sowell and Winston Wright doesn't help much either. I have faith in NC State defense, too. I mean, Sean Brown put them a little bit more in the pass coverage, and that's just, I think they're capable of doing some damage defensively, which is why I give the advantage to NC State. All right. On the flip side, CJ Bailey Heisman run begins next Thursday, but now the CJ Bailey will begin. His Heisman is coming to him. I don't know why I keep saying CJ Bailey, but CJ Bailey's Heisman run. He dominated against ECU with Jolly Rogers and Grimes, while Terrell Anderson is a bit of a step down from Dakari Collins right now. I expect him to show up and produce as well. A lot of receivers have multiple catches in that game, Anderson included. Turning out first downs and touchdowns, so it was just kind of like the rushing offense, passing offense just kind of got their work done. It was just like first down, just getting there and giving CJ Bailey 3 passing touchdowns. ECU has a new look secondary comprising of 3 new transfers. Like most non-superb college football team, your Alabamas, your Clemsons, you get it. It's a blend of unproven Power 4 backups. Like Tegan Wilk has fallen out of depth chart since 2023, having played for Houston. 2 career tackles for Jonathan Aikens out of Maryland, or sometimes he could get stars from just lower level schools. Jordy Lowry from Western Carolina, 8 pass deflections and 6 interceptions. That's pretty good for a cornerback. But it's also the FCS level, so you can't kind of expect for that performance to translate one-on-one to the FBS level. I know there's your exceptions like Cam Ward, but I would not expect it to happen. I think I mentioned Josh Aldridge, Hugh Freeze's disciple. He relies on heavy blitz and a man cover to help slow down passing offenses, especially in the red zone. He had one of the best pass and defense and red zone defense efficiency while he was at Liberty a couple years ago. CJ Bailey has shown efficiency and maturity with each passing game. I believe that they can produce with a similar wide receiver core, and just kind of looking at UNC for instance, CJ Bailey has shown that he could handle man coverage more than zone. So the big question is if he can handle the blitz. I think he'll be able to. He handled it. They handle it to the severity that we're probably going to see it this game as they did the last one. But I have faith in him. I give the advantage to NC State again. All right. ECU Russian offense versus NC State Russian defense. Ooh. ECU lost Rajay Harris, which is just already a huge deficit. They have 3 running backs that they can use in tandem or even have one start. Wanda Montgomery is a sophomore with 359 yards and 2 touchdowns last season. Or Marlon Gunn Jr., who is a senior, with 224 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mentioned 3 because Caden Hauser could also, he did well in the running game as well, producing yards and scrambling with the signed or scrambled plays. I think that rushing game is not going to be too terrible, especially since I think the offensive line additions just haven't been worse. They have a good offensive line, and I think they're able to keep that consistent for this season. NC State had one of the worst rushing defenses in the ACC, and this game showed it. The ECU ran all over them late in the game. 80-yard touchdown. You get it. Most of that defensive line for NC State hasn't changed outside the losing fan. But having Brandon Cleveland and Trevally Price will help to stuff up the offensive line. But then it's just kind of like the defensive ends and the linebackers, can they do their stuff to kind of stop the running back from getting to that third level? I give the advantage to ECU just because we don't know what we're going to expect out of this Russian defense, and we've seen that ECU can run the heck out of that ball and have full confidence that they can figure out who will be that running back one for the future. Probably Wyndham Montgomery, to be blunt, but time will tell. All right, so right now it's like 2-1 if you're keeping score at home. NC State Russian offense versus ECU Russian defense. I give the advantage to someone. Hollywood Smothers was able to produce well in that game with about 9.3 average yards. I think I mentioned all of it before, but he didn't score. He has proven to be the number one running back for this team, especially when Russian offense was a huge concern when it was jumping around between like Jordan Waters, Kendrick Raphael, he's gone now. Hollywood Smothers, of course, and also running back depth is kind of a question too. They have young pieces, but I worry that an injury or just a slow production from Smothers can completely shut out the Russian game. Jaden Scott and DeAndre Desinoir, those are the two kind of young depth pieces in that depth chart. And I just, once again, I think we don't know what's going to happen if Hollywood Smothers doesn't ball out. And CJ Bailey, he had 11 rushing attempts, but I think they just need to slow down rushing him. I don't think he's gotten much bigger. I haven't seen enough from his rushing for me to say, yeah, go for that. Instead of just giving it to Hollywood Smothers or just trying to do like quick bubble routes to Rogers and Grimes on the outside. Oh well. ECU had a low rushing defense all of last season, but they were able to slow down the red zone efficiency of Hollywood Smothers and stop any production from CJ Bailey. However, this new look defense, including heavy blitz, could slow down Russian in that third, fourth downs, which were able to do before. While Hollywood Smothers, it's possible for him to ball out. I think that bringing back most of the pieces from that Russian defense last year and just the fact that they were able to stop that Russian from scoring, which, in the end, it doesn't really matter how many yards you run. If you run 300 yards and 0 touchdowns, I guess he had a great game, but he didn't score either. Maybe that's not a good mindset to have, but, 300 yards is a bad mindset to have. 200 yards, and you can't get it. That's just not good. Advantage ECU for that reason, just because I think ECU has a lot more things figured out in the general Russian game, offensively and defensively, than we see from NC State. Talk a little bit about special teams. So, just kind of this, when I mentioned earlier that you can't really transfer from FCS to FBS without a one-to-one translation, you kind of have to leave an exception for the special teams, your punters and kickers. Back to our lads, this is kind of what they have projected as the starters for this upcoming game of the special teams. I did not put into account previous game though, so maybe this might be a little not 100% accurate. ECU has Nick Mazzy from University of New Hampshire. He had a 78% field goal accuracy and 100% point after touchdown accuracy. His furthest field goal last year was 52 yards, and the exact yardage accuracy is not known completely because of FCS not great job at stat recording. Oh, maybe if they hired me, it'd be a little bit better. What? I don't know. Ryan Levy from Furman is their punter. Average 41 yards per punt with a 70-yard long. Um, not many touchbacks, though. Which, I mean, that's good. You pin them down, you know, in before the 10-yard line. If you're able to pin them down real far back, I mean, that's how you win these games. Is Of course, I think the turnover margins is really important. I think just even getting it in the end zone is important. But you have to mention how being able if you start at a 25-yard line every single time, you only need realistically like 40 yards to score a field goal. I mean, it's 4 first downs. But if you start back, if you're able to pin them down within a 10, that becomes like 9 first downs that they'd have to take to even get a field goal from it. And I think that margin is kind of what creates exhaustion for the players offensively. And that can kind of help be a deciding factor for how these games change. I think maybe I'm kind of being a little bit obvious here. That's kind of a big problem in my show. It might be a little bit too obvious. But I think that's just something to know is that they have a good punter. And, I mean, their punt returner isn't great. Kyler Pearson averaged 17.3 yards per return. I think that's good. Hold on, let's see. NCAA average. Sorry, kind of have to go quiet here. I bet they don't even have that statistic. Yeah, I mean, high average 20 seems to be pretty high average. Let's see, NC State, who did they have? I think, oh shoot, they didn't even have anyone like really noticeable in the punt return game. They were using, um, yeah, they were using Hollywood Smothers and Leslie Grimes as the predominant returners. But I think as those two kind of step up in their role, we'll see Jonathan Paylor, who is the backup in both punt and kick return. He will eventually take over as the starter. So it's kind of a question mark in the return game, but come on, I think he will do just fine. EC has a lot of transfers from smaller schools. Pearson, the punt returner for ECU, transferred from Oklahoma State. I don't know if I needed to mention that, but that kind of ruins the whole smaller schools thing. He's shown more prowess. Like this, like if you kind of look at average and longs, I think that ECU has a great because let's just look at the kickers and punters for NC State before I forget again. Kanoa Finisette. Had about a 75% accuracy, which is, a little lower. Let's see. His furthest field goal is also 52 yards. So maybe not a high margin of difference, but I think just, what would you prefer, 75 or 78? I know it doesn't matter too much, but if this game gets close like it did last game, it could matter. Caden Noonkester returns. He averaged 43.6 yards per punt with a 58-yard long. So not as good as Ryan Levy is, maybe a hot take, but I think, 70-yard long, 41 yards. I think that 2.6 matters a little bit less than that accuracy overall. So I'll give the advantage to ECU, which kind of makes them out of advantage. NC State, I don't think it's like a huge worry because it is winnable still. I mean, special teams doesn't matter too much as long as NC State stays efficient third downs and stuffs ECU's run game, forcing Hauser to throw. They could win. I think, Yeah, I mentioned that, okay, if Hauser can get the ball to the receivers and they'll play good, but in the incoming transfer's first game, I don't expect him to ball out. And I think the same kind of goes for what I expect from. Let's see. Yeah, that is kind of more than what I expect from ECU. Hold on. It's simple. Just kind of clear my head a little bit. Stop Caden Hauser, force him to throw, and they'll win. Primarily because, he threw 3 interceptions against them before. And I feel like our defensive coordinator, CJ Riley, I think he's a little bit more competent than Josh Aldred is. And I just, maybe I'm kind of get back into blind faith on the secondary and the Russian defense. But I think that if they just kind of shifted their focus a little bit more on the Russian game, then they'll produce wins. I don't know if I'm crazy, but that feels like the strategy I would go with. And staying efficient on third downs, because third downs are super important. If you can't stay, because missing on third down is about as bad as throwing an interception, really. Because you're forced to punt, and if you don't have we have a good punter, but just things can go haywire once it comes out of your control. Once it's kind of like you're kind of like in that fourth down, it's like, all right, well, now you kind of have to get rid of it. Minimize that. Minimize the turnovers on downs. And they should be good. My predicted final score is 27-17, NC State. I think if I had to guess kind of who would be the biggest producer for each team, it would be CJ Bailey and Noah Rogers having a great connection. And then I think Wanda Montgomery will probably be able to take care of business. If not, then, if Wanda Montgomery and the running backs can't show up or they get stuffed by our soon-to-be really great defense, then NC State will win. But anyways, that's kind of the end of it. I got to finish it now before I keep rambling and rambling and rambling. You've kind of heard all the ramblings already. But, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you enjoy the ECU football game and the other upcoming game that we have with ECU. Michigan State soccer. ECU is who we're playing next Thursday. 2 Thursday games. But I'm going to kind of move on for that. In our next episode on the 25th, I'll be doing a review of that. Well, I can't do a review of that ECU game because it's a little too early. I'll be doing a review of women's soccer playing against Utah and the volleyball opener with the Summit Hospitality Tournament against Akron, Army, and Green Bay. So, hope you enjoyed today's episode. Have a good day, and go Pack.